Hey, thank you so much for joining me today. We have got a real gem here. Now, this is a book that came out originally in 1985. This edition, I believe, came out in 1987. So we're going way, way back. But in the early 90s, when I was hanging out at the mall, and in particular when malls actually had bookstores, multiple ones, not just the only bookstore that exists today, but there was Dalton's, Brentano's, Waldenbooks, Crown Books even. But nonetheless, this particular book was always at the Waldenbooks in Springfield Mall, and I used to flip through it for years. I always wanted to buy it, never could, mainly because I was a kid. I didn't have money. Secondly, it's kind of, I was about 13, I guess, 12 or 13, and asking for a book with mostly half-naked women was a bit embarrassing. So this book, original price tag was $24, and in 1987, a $24 book was staggeringly expensive. That being said, very well worth it. So a little bit of a backstory to Mr. Boris Vallejo. He was born in Lima, Peru in 1941, and in 1957, at the age of 16, he got his first professional job. Shortly after that, he came to America in 1964 at the age of 23, tried to get some illustration work. He found it a bit difficult, but nonetheless, he still kept doing his thing. And eventually, he was able to get some work for Tarzan, Conan the Barbarian, and Doc Savage. In 1994, he had married fantasy illustrator Julie Bell, and from that point on, they were inseparable. They worked together. They did a lot of collabs. They currently still live in Pennsylvania. And the thing that is really, really interesting is that this book, originally published in 1985, if you think about that, he is still alive. He's still producing work. He was 44 years old when the original book came out. He's currently 84. So there's 40 more years of work and techniques that this man has that is not in this book. And this book is incredible. So let's dive into it. Now, first off, I just got to let you know that a lot of this book is going to be covered, but there are a lot of other illustrations that I'm not going to be able to show because of perhaps, I don't know, standards on YouTube or whatever it is. But also, I kind of don't want to just spoil it all. If you really want to do it, track yourself down a copy of this and get it because it is certainly well worth it. This is a very quick read. It definitely does have a heavy emphasis on a collective body of his work, but like I said, the techniques that he gets into are just fantastic. One of the big things that is actually pretty fun to look at is his use of photographs and models. The section that shows the actual photograph and the painting that became finalized from that photograph is really interesting to see how harshly lit they are. And I don't know if he intended to do that, but it definitely gives it a much more dramatic look. And you can sort of see that, it makes sense. These aren't good photographs at all, but they make great references for fantasy paintings. He does show a lot of his, what he would consider rough sketches or rough paintings of what he's thinking. And to be honest, those roughs are good enough to be a cover of any comic book out there. It's amazing to think that he just doodled these things out as a rough. The print quality of the page is actually really, really nice, I gotta say. And considering how old this book is, it's not yellowed at all. It does have a bit of wear on the jacket, but that's to be expected. This book came out in 1987, come on. But the inside stuff, it's fantastic to see. If you're curious about the artistic process of a lot of these masters back in the day, or even today, let's be real, there are people out there, they just don't get nearly enough attention. But to see how people think, how they put together their illustrations, and to just basically create real beautiful works that adorn covers, this is the book for you. And here's the Chrome Man. This is a pretty famous cover for a collection of Asimov short stories, I believe. And you go from top to tail on the technique of how he came up with this cover, and it's great to see. One of the cool things is that you get to see his portfolio when he was trying to get some work for like Pulp Fiction novels, and I think they're fantastic. I mean, it's a shame that none of them got published. Well, that's about it. Thank you so much for joining me. And like I said, get out there, and if this is something you dig, then find a copy because it is well worth the money.